Welcome to Reunite with Self podcast. I'm your host, Ruken. Here, we will be discovering and unraveling what is truly holding you back. We will put the puzzle together and give you clarity on how and what you can do to create massive shifts in your life so you start creating the life you always envisioned for yourself. No more waiting. Whether it is liberating from dysfunctional family patterns or parenting tools and tips that actually make the difference, we will be diving into the truth and core of things that are simple and yet which no one talks about. I will be sharing with you all the things that would have changed my life massively if I heard any one of these episodes. A new world is awakening, and true bliss, harmony, and peace is possible on this earth, and my mission is to bring you closer to that one step at a time. In this safe space, I will hold your hand and give you courage and certainty that you can shift anything and everything in your life. It is time we break the pattern. Whether you want to be the parent you never had or make a shift in your life so you don't play small any longer, you will find the support and guidance in this space. My intention is for you to find your own answers within yourself while you listen to this podcast, so you feel the bliss of reuniting with your true essence, with self, with so much love and compassion and courage. From my heart to yours, let's keep it rocking. My gorgeous listener, welcome to another episode on Reunite with Self. Thank you for being here. This is going to be a very powerful episode. So we are doing a mini series on the mother wound. Like I've told you, I've been really surprised by how massive mother wound is right now in the world. It's so massive, and I believe it might be bigger than the father wound. Like, I'm not sure. Of course, I can't be sure, but what I feel is that many people have the father wound, but they have the mother wound as well because of the things we're going to talk about in this episode today, whether your mom has narcissistic tendency or not. So in the mini-series, the first episode we did mother wound is bigger than we think, and then the second one was the previous episode, the ways in which narcissistic mother controls, limits, and manipulates. So this is the third leg of the series, and this episode is called How Unsupportive Mother Creates Terrible Consequences. And I can continue with because she's not accountable either. We will go through this. So I took notes. We're going to do this like, let's say 4x4, because we are doing a mini series of 4 episodes anyway. So let's get into it. So how unsupportive mother creates terrible consequences for their adult child, for their child and adult child as well. So when I say unsupportive mother here, what I mean is she's unsupportive to the narcissistic abuse her child is exposed to. And it, like, of course, 95% of the time, that would be the father figure or the father. So the father would have, let's say, narcissistic tendency, behavior, maybe personality disorder even, and in a situation like that, the child is not only abused by the father. So, of course, in a case like this, most of the time, and if we think about like the generations, if we think about our moms and dads, if someone is married to a narcissist, it is pretty rare that she figures out this person is a narcissist and I have to get out. What I have seen is that sometimes women realize that there is something, air quotes, wrong with their husband, but they're just so used to it, maybe from their mom or just from their parents and family as well, that they just accommodate and continue. But the fruit of that marriage or partnership, like the child, how they are affected is just really insane. And this is where the cycle continues. Not because the person is like married or with someone, but because they have a child together, or they're raising a child together. So when I say, like in a situation like this, when I say the mom and dad, so the father would have narcissistic tendency and the mother is not able to create clarity for herself, so she would not be able to create clarity for their daughter or son, you can swap this up. You can say the mom would have narcissistic tendency and the father, when the father is not supportive, not creating clarity, not supporting their daughter or son to create clarity. This, like what we're going to talk about today, applies, but the main difference might be depending on the family, the culture, and everything. What I see in narcissism is that when the father, like a strong figure father, not like strong figure in the sense that they're powerful in some ways. When the father has a narcissistic tendency, the mother is usually accommodating that. And this is where the problem begins if they have a child together. So the mother accommodates that, and in most cultures, or in like a female-male relationship, usually showing empathy to the husband and being accommodating to that and servicing that is the norm. So it's even stronger in this sense when the male figure is a narcissist, has narcissistic tendency, and the mother is serving that. All right, so what she does, what the unsupportive mother does, 4 pieces, and 4 pieces of the consequences for the adult child. So what she does is, number 1, I'll just go through them, I guess. Number 1, the mother, the unsupportive mother, accommodates narcissism. Serves narcissism, that energy, that dynamic. The second one asks and supports you, the child, to accommodate narcissism as well. Asks and supports you to accommodate narcissism in subtle ways, subtitling, a lot of exemplifying, a lot of the language, the way she relates to the husband, how she talks about when there's a problem, how she approaches the problem instead of asking him to be accountable, how she justifies his behavior with his stress, or I don't know, his childhood, or like as if he got other things going on, so we have to accommodate this stuff. Something in that sense. And if the child, you in this case, and you would be highly sensitive, I am sure, if the child is highly sensitive, there becomes like a language between the mother and the child. They don't even need to. The child is so empathetic because of, the protection mechanism that we spoke about on some previous episodes. Like she has to, I say she, it can be he, by the way, it's she or he, the child. She gets so empathetic because it's her protective mechanism, and it becomes like their coping mechanism with the mother of, they're not coping, by the way, it's just how they handle it, because the child learns that from the mother, and the mother asks the child to do that so that she can handle the situation, so that she can ignore what she needs to ignore, so she doesn't stand up to the narcissist, so she doesn't need to grab the narcissist's attention even more so that he, the narcissist, would not become even more aggressive. And by the way, the stories can be very complex. Like in a situation like this, the mother might have narcissistic tendencies as well in like some seemingly small areas, and the father might be more outspoken in his narcissism, and then still the mother might be accommodating that and asks the child to accommodate that and serve that as well. So the mother asks, I was going to say something else, but I'm sure it's going to come to me. The mother, oh yeah, their language between each other, it sort of becomes like the way that it's showing empathy to the narcissist and being quote unquote understanding to the narcissist sort of is like the badge of honor for the mother. So she expects the same thing from her children, and especially the daughters, because the daughters are highly sensitive. They have like this huge ability to show so much compassion and empathy even to their abuser. So you know where I'm going with this. So the second one is this. The first one, what she does, the unsupportive mother accommodates narcissism. The second one is asks and supports you to accommodate narcissism. The third one is sets an example and makes it okay to be abused by the narcissist. Sets an example to her child and makes it okay to be abused by the narcissist. The daughter, the son, can have big emotions after being abused, but it does not change anything. Meaning there is no clarity. There is nothing really, what's the word? There is nothing really fundamental, quote unquote, wrong with the father. It's just because he's having a bad day, he's stressed at work, he's got pressure from his boss, or he's the boss in his company, so he's pressured with money. He's got things going on with his own family, the family he comes from. He had a difficult childhood. That's all he knows. This is just the way he is. He's got like, not even anger problems. He's just angry. Like it does not, like, for the child, it becomes so complex. We'll talk about this, but the mother makes it so okay for this to happen. Like, they look at it event to event. They look at it from incident to incident, not just like, not as a whole of what the F is going on. And as I was saying, if a person is married to a narcissist, most probably, and if we talk about the generations before us, it just slipped my mind what I was going to say. But if they're married to a narcissist, they are not able to create clarity for themselves. And not to take that responsibility, because it's huge. They have to make big decisions if they realize that. They know this. It's very complex. If the daughter wants to like liberate herself and create clarity, that is huge. Huge, because that means the mother needs to face many things. I would want to talk about this on another episode, but just that is like very interesting. The mother would have to face what she has accommodated, like what her child went through. She had accommodated that by being in that marriage with that person and just making it okay and all of that. She would have to face her own troubles with the narcissist. And also she would have to face then look back and do the same thing as her daughter is doing. So to look back at her own family, the family she comes from, and what happened in there. And this is like not something that she is willing to do. So she sets an example and makes it okay to be abused by the narcissist. They look at things from incident to incident. Something happens, they might sit down and talk about it. The daughter might ask for help, like ask for support, in not directly, of course. She's not even like that. She would not even be that what would be the word? I am sure you understand. Like, she's not that. The word is slipping. Um, the word is slipping. She doesn't have the. It's not familiar for her, the daughter, to create clarity for herself and set like strict healthy boundaries. So she's not even able to say, I need your support, but she might be super confused with everything and just being like deeply abused, and it would affect so much about her, like her self-worth, enoughness, her abilities, just her worth and everything related to that. So the fourth one is what she does, what the unsupportive mother does is she cannot hold space when you are abused by the father or the brother or the relative. The unsupportive mother cannot hold space. She would most probably want things to be okay. And it's sort of like pressure on you to make things okay as soon as possible. And that happens through feeling this, I don't want to say too much compassion, because it's not compassionate when you are not doing that to yourself. I have realized it's actually an illusion of compassion. Yeah, that's the word, illusion. It's not compassion when you are not first showing that to yourself, especially in something that you never deserved, that you were abused in. So it becomes, there are so many things I want to talk about. I sometimes forget what I was going to say. I think my mind is faster than my English words. So you show this too much compassion and empathy, which is like illusion of compassion and empathy, to the abuser again. And how you deal with it is like how you soothe yourself is by saying things like, oh, but he loves you so much. Like, there is almost sometimes an unspoken language beneath what you are talking, that just, there are things, as if there can be things that makes it okay, as if it has to be black or white, as if the good things take away the bad. Because this is tricky in narcissism. And this is how the narcissist plays with you all day Tuesday, when they're telling you what they do right, or what might be more supportive or more maybe loving or whatever, as if like what they're doing right can be an excuse or can be a reason why you would minimize their abusive behavior, like deeply abusive behavior, because life is not black or white. People are not like that. And our behavior is not like that. Our relationships are not like that. And the good things do not take away from the bad. Like, they're two separate things. They're two different conversations. So it cannot be anything, like those good things cannot be the thing that justifies their abusive behavior. So the unsupportive mother cannot hold space when you are abused by the father, brother, or relative, and you You learn to soothe yourself in a way that your nervous system is always, like, I don't want to say always, but most of the time dysregulated. It's like it becomes your normal being in a fight flight mode, and we'll talk about this. So it's, I think, going through lots of things, but having someone in your family that can hold space for you truly is like a field of flowers. It's, I think, and like I always say, I believe it's not the narcissism. The problem is that we don't have any support in our families, in our larger circle of families too. We don't have the support. That is the problem. Because the thing is that I believe in the duality of this world, and I know that there is a reason for narcissism, and I am not after deleting narcissism from the world. I'm not after that. I know that it's important who we have children with. It's the most important decision in our lives. But I am not after changing people, or I am truly, like, I'm saying this truly from my heart, I am not wishing narcissist people to change. That's not my wish. Like, when I have a regulated nervous system, when I'm in my heart and in my soul, when I'm not like triggered or something, I'm really not interested in that. What I'm interested in is that, like, there is like whole different range spectrum of people in the world, but the circle we have and the circle we choose, we must have people that can hold space for us when we go through challenging things. And not everybody has to be the same kind of loving and the same compassionate kind of way to us. Like, it all happens for us. So a narcissist in our life might have the role to make us stronger in so many ways that we can't even fathom. Like, it makes us so much stronger. But the road becomes so much faster, and it becomes so much softer, and I believe it almost becomes like an opportunity to come closer to others when there are people around you that can truly hold space for you, and they don't want you to explain further. You don't need to explain further. Just a few sentences is enough for them to understand what you must have been going through, because they know that with your how compassionate you are, how empathetic you are, how loving you are, you have a huge tendency to minimize abusive behavior, especially people close to you, but anyone, because you see through them. You see their childhood, you see their wounds. So you have a tendency to minimize things and like look the other way, or so they would know if you're saying something, they know it should be so much bigger than what you're telling them in that moment. It's not just that one incident. If you feel the need to go up to them and tell them something, maybe it's the 100th time, maybe it's the 1,000th time, or if it's maybe even more, that similar thing is happening over and over and over and over. And you minimize it, you put it under the rug, you like neglected your own emotions for so many times that, like, once you can't do that anymore, and then you want to face your emotions, and through sharing, you will realize so much. And sometimes it doesn't even take that much I believe if someone is really there, like in your really close circle, if someone is there, especially in your family, to hold space for you, I believe you have a healing so quickly. Like it can heal through that, through being seen and held and accepted, and someone trusting you that you should have gone through so much more than what you were telling, what you're accepting in that moment. And through that, through sharing and being seen, and the person does not want you to explain any further and report all the details and suffer even more, like hurt even more. They don't want that. You can if you want to, but you don't need to. They get you the first moment you say them, and they are not tolerating that, and they don't want you to minimize it. They don't tell you that you need to do something more different maybe in order to solve it, in order for the other person to act differently. Maybe, they're not telling you, maybe if you have this conversation with them, maybe if you told them this, maybe if you didn't tell them this, maybe if you did it this way, maybe if you don't care about it so much. They know it's not you, it's them. The conversation is them, their behavior. What's wrong is them, their behavior. It's not you. This is so important, because they're not asking you to do something more or less or differently in order for you to solve it or not have that problem or have them not act that way. This is so important, because if you would see something like that, it would have been so much faster for you to create clarity for yourself, to see what is really going on here. Like, what's really happening here? Okay, I felt really angry. I felt really sad. I felt attacked. I felt not enough. I felt not worthy. I felt disappointed. I felt heartbroken. I felt shock, confusion, self-doubt, sadness, frustration, whatever it is. In that moment, you would understand that. You would see that. You would feel that. You would be conscious about that. But also, and then if someone is able to hold space for you in that way, you would start seeing what is happening in the whole picture. So it's not just that incident. You didn't just have a fight. You didn't have just a quarrel. That person did not just say something that hurt you. That person did not just say something that hurt you. It was abuse. It was abuse. It was abuse. And it was not just one time. So, let's go to the consequences for the adult child when the mother is acting this way, when the mother is doing this. So what are the consequences for the adult child when they become an adult if the mother is unsupportive this way, accommodating and serving narcissism and asking the child to serve it as well for many, many years? By the way, the mother might have ways for you to, let's say, not be abused so much, but her solutions are not going to the root of it. So it's, again, not looking at it as something fundamental happening with the father or with that person. It's just a way to look the other way and just trying to avoid as much as possible walking on eggshells. It has terrible consequences. it has terrible consequences. So the first consequence for the adult child is that, I'm sure, like, there's so many. I just took these notes in 15 minutes or something. The first one is the son, daughter gets too familiar with being abused because nobody's saying anything to the father in a real way. And in a situation like this, most probably it's not just the mother. It's like every dinner table you sit at, nobody says anything. You can sense it. If you're highly sensitive, you sense what the father is doing when they say something to the son, to the daughter. It doesn't have to be something big. You sense it. You sense by the way the son is acting, by the way that the daughter is acting. You sense what might be going on behind the curtains. It's not just this moment, this small thing. It's just the wound was already created. So he's just poking at it just to, irritate him or her so that he or she behaves, plays small, everything. So the son and the daughter gets too familiar with being abused. And then the second one is that the daughter or the son learns it's a badge of honor to be abused and still feel empathy and compassion and let it go. It's sort of like a badge of honor. When you love someone, you are supposed to do that. And not because you are superior than them or anything. It's just that way. Because everybody has a role in that family, in that scenario. Like, if you look at your family, you would be able to start seeing that even with your relatives, like who is playing the narcissist, who is playing a different narcissist, who is the accommodator, who asks you to accommodate as well. And you would never be supported if you share anything. They would make sure that you accommodate, and you feel terrible shame if you ever want to speak out and call it what it is. So it sort of becomes a badge of honor. And what this does is that it's not just for the father anymore. That son, that daughter, when they get married, when they are with someone, and of course, like the third thing I'm going to say, they will attract narcissists. Until they figure this out, they will always attract narcissists. That's the way it has to be. How else can you see what the F happened in the past? Like, how else can you truly see what happened to you when you were 3 years old, 5 years old? Who would ever go back to that if you don't have problems today? Who would go back? How can you remember those emotions? And I'm not saying every person who had narcissistic mother, father has narcissism, but if someone had in their romantic life, but if someone has a narcissistic partner, I am sure they had narcissism in the family they come from. I am sure about it. There is no other freaking way, because it's so familiar to them. And it's like, it becomes between the accommodators, let's say the women in the family, let's say a bigger circle. It's sort of like they have this smile that when the narcissist is acting out, because they act out like a child, but at the same time, they might look as if they're this powerful businessman figure, but they're acting out, and it's not acceptable. It was never acceptable, but there was never anyone mature enough, emotionally adult enough to say, what are you doing? Like, there was no one like this. So it becomes this like unspoken language when everybody has a role. And I won't go deeper into this, but the accommodators, the women has this smile as if they know, like, it's this badge of honor, like they're going to minimize that as if it's going to minimize their, as if it's going to affect their emotions in any ways that it's going to like decrease the amount of pain they are feeling. It won't otherwise, like it's the other way around. But they have this, it becomes like, because this is so familiar to me, that's why I'm explaining like this. It's the women who are not narcissist, or they might have some sort of narcissism in them, but they are not the same narcissism. They're not the same narcissist as the guys, as the men. They have this smile as if like this is how we do it. Like, this is what you're supposed to do when you love someone, when they're close to you. This is what belonging is. And can you see how effed up this is? This is like, what are you teaching your child? It's so effed up. How can they see right from wrong? How can they have real, like, the ability to see this person is dangerous. This person has tendency to abuse me. This person, what they're doing is not love. Like, I'm not interested in this. You don't grow with that. It's not something that you are taught or exemplified, or it's not something that's familiar to you in any ways. Like, you have never seen that happen. So, and you might see certain people as dangerous, but there is always different levels in every family. A family might see some things as danger, and you won't be abused by that, but you're going to be abused as the same things that your father abused you. Same things. It's going to be the same feeling. The story will be different, but it's going to like hit that unworthiness wound the same freaking way, but you have no idea because you don't consciously remember everything. But your body remembers. So, okay, I will continue. So the first one is the son-daughter gets too familiar with being abused. The second one is learns it's a badge of honor to be abused and still feel empathy and compassion and let it go. This becomes so easy for you in your relationships. If you don't get aware, if you're not conscious of it, if you don't create clarity for yourself until you create the clarity for yourself. And 3, this gets so familiar if not aware. And if you don't make a shift, he or she will attract narcissists in romantic life for sure. And then the 4th thing is that it gets super complex trauma because the daughter learned how to show empathy to the abuser over and over again and not ask the person to be accountable. So she doesn't get clarity. She's always in fight, flight, freeze mode, whatever, fawn a lot too. And her nervous system is most of the time dysregulated. And she plays small for sure in life. So these are the terrible consequences of an unsupportive mother who accommodates narcissism and asks their child to accommodate and serve narcissistic dynamics as well. I can do episodes based on your specific questions. If you have questions for me, please let me know. My Instagram is Chiavella. It's in the show notes. It's my goddess wear brand, but I use the same IG handle for Reunite with Self as well, because I have a couple of Instagram handles. So please DM me if you have any questions. If you have any examples, we'll have a nickname for you and I'll do an episode based on your specific questions so that, I heard this the other day, I think it was yesterday, someone said when the story is more detailed, it becomes more universal. This is so interesting. That's why telling stories around the fire was just magic, and we should have more stories. And this is why I do this podcast, because I was so shocked when I was like sharing stories from my life, and the way that people would act with that was just challenging for me. And I realized that we have to be inspired. We have to talk about our challenging experiences with our close circle. We have to tell, because when you hear someone else's story, you get so inspired. You feel so much strength to do big things with your life. You feel a lot of strength with that. So all of this is things that you can change and shift and use as leverage for yourself because it's all happening for you to be even more strong. Like, it makes you so strong. You look back and you say, this is the exact situation I would choose again. Like this, I get now why I chose this family, why I chose these circumstances. This is exactly what made me what I am today. Exactly that. You change, you turn that, you transform that, you make it your irreversible strength. And for that, we need to create clarity, and I'm here to support you on that. If you're new to the podcast, please listen to the previous episodes. You're going to find a lot of things that will be supportive to you. I love you so much. I will see you shine your brightest. I'll see you next week. I love you. My gorgeous listener, if you had any takeaways from this episode or from this podcast in general, I would love to know. Please share this episode with a few loved ones right now. You never know how they can benefit from something so small. And please take a screenshot of this episode and share on IG, tagging me at Khewella. That is Khewella. Khewella. That is my goddess wear brand, my Instagram page. I would love to know what your takeaway was, or something you found inspirational, or a confirmation you believe in as well. That would make my day. And you can always DM me if you have a topic or a certain question in mind that you want me to talk about. And give me a 5-star rating if you feel like it. That would help this podcast immensely to get the word out. I love you. See you on the next one. I want to see you shine your brightest.